Thank you for joining us for this look at some of the best stories from KPBS News this week. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Coming up, getting the AC fixed at local schools, why San Diego Unified is struggling with a major backlog of repairs. New technology is helping prevent serious injuries in youth sports. See what's being done to limit long-term damage, especially when it comes to football. And tracing the journeys of his ancestors, meet a local professor who is using genetics to tell the story of the Pacific's earliest explorers. And we start in Escondido, where nurses at Palomar Health are sounding the alarm. They rallied this week over demands they say the hospital is failing to meet. Nurses told KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne that low staffing levels are impacting patient care.
Unsafe staffing has got to go.
Nurses and caregivers at Palomar Health in Escondido are raising the alarm about patient safety in the hospital.
We're asking Palomar to give us more respect, to retain our staff and no work short. We've been very short, and for patient safety.
Constanza Nader works in the hospital's emergency department and picketed with colleagues Thursday morning.
When you have a patient that is delusional because of a procedure or because of a mental illness, we cannot have a camera sitting there watching the patient.
She says Palomar Health and the nurses union have failed to reach an agreement. As a result, staffing has gone down, and cuts in services are impacting patient care.
We need the CNAs, we need somebody that is there to provide the safety and the security that that patient needs. The camera cannot come and hold the hand, it cannot redirect an elderly patient that is confused.
She says that without a strong contract, recruitment for new staff also gets harder. And that's an added stress to the staff trying to keep up with patients.
We want the support of the community because this is what this hospital is for, to serve the community, to be here for them, to care for people when they're in the most vulnerable state.
The nurses and caregivers contract expired in July, but was extended until the end of September. That contract has now expired, and registered nurse Michelle Jones says morale is low.
I love being a nurse, and I love providing care for my patients, and I love to provide them the best care possible here in Palomar Health, and we do that with a good contract.
We reached out to Palomar Health for an interview, but they said they have no comment at this time. Negotiations between the hospital and nurses union pick up at the end of October. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
It's football season at high schools across America, and the safety of the game continues to evolve. Alexander Nguyen recently looked into the issue and how it's being addressed on the field. He also met with a local family whose lives have been forever changed.
And we're working on getting him proficient so he can talk through the computer.
Diane Luth is explaining how her son, Scott Everlyn, communicates after suffering a traumatic brain injury. He depends on caregivers 24/7 to eat, bathe, and communicate. 17 years ago, Evelyn collapsed on the field at Mission Hills High School after sustaining a brain injury. It was his second head injury within a week, and he had asked to sit out the game.
The trainer had said, "Oh, you don't have to play," and unfortunately the coach overruled him and put him in, and that was the last of the Scott that we knew.
Head injuries continue to plague youth football. So far this year, a middle school player in West Virginia and a high school player in Alabama have died from head injuries. An effort to ban tackling in high school football has been met with strong resistance. A state bill to ban children under 12 from playing was scrapped earlier this year after Governor Gavin Newsom said he would veto it. There have been some changes made in recent years to keep student athletes safe, including limits on practice time. And coaches are now better trained to look for signs of head injuries. John Goodman is the head coach at Escondido Charter High School. He played high school football about 30 years ago.
I don't think people knew back then what was going on with it, and we just kind of played.
Now he says the game is much faster, thanks to technology like sightline replays. So the chances of kids getting hurt are greater.
Now kids are getting to the ball quicker. They know what's happening faster, so it's even more paramount today that you educate the youngsters on what the proper technique, what the proper angles are.
But technology is also making the sport safer. Goodman has used Guardian caps during practice for the past 10 years. This is technology the NFL started using this year. They are soft shell helmet covers. He's also using what's known as Riddell Insight.
A sensor in the helmets that tell a reader how much the kids have impacted a hit, and then that reader tells my athletic trainer, hey, you need to look at this youngster to see if he's sustained a head collision. Escondido Charter High parent Brian Fonseca used to coach Pop Warner football. He says the sport is safer than ever.
We have a professional trainer on practice. They're waiting for things happening. If any kid gets hurt, nobody gets back on that field without the trainer giving the thumbs up.
In order for these young athletes to benefit from sports, they need to survive them.
Daniel Malara is an athletic trainer from Cal State San Marcos. He says there is a growing consensus that children should start contact sports later.
We're still in the infancy of what that looks like as far as research. I think at this moment in time, most brain science, if you will have a recommendation to start contact sports or blows to the head around 14.
But Malara says that's a conversation parents need to have with the coaches and staff. He says a coach's attitude influences how a team approaches injuries.
Nice job, kid.
Scott Evelyn says his coach was to blame for his injury, ending his dream of medical school. It also makes communication a slow process, with his mother reading his words, saying coaches need to do a better job listening.
Make sure that parents know this. And it's the first time he's actually shared his thoughts.
Luth says if she had to do it over again, she would still let her son play football. The sport was not the problem, she says. The coach was.
Who's watching your children? It's really, the crux of it is because there's great coaches out there. And I wish Scott had that coach.
Evelyn's family sued San Marcos Unified and settled in 2016 for nearly $4.4 million. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
San Diego Unified School District leaders are looking for solutions to repair a backlog of broken air conditioners. Hundreds of classrooms were left with little relief during September's heat wave. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas explains why it happened.
Representatives from the district's maintenance department say about 480 classrooms had air conditioning problems between mid-August and mid-September. They say a range of factors led to air conditioner malfunctions. Brian M. directs the district's physical plant operations. He says running air conditioners for long periods of time strained aging systems.
1/3 of our district's HVAC systems are either past or nearing their end of the useful life. Life cycles range from 10 to 30 years, depending on the systems.
M says newer, more efficient units are more complicated to repair, and supply chain issues are delaying the arrival of needed parts. Operations Director John Hensley says they can't keep up with demand.
Overall, we are completing roughly 83% of HVAC work orders received each year, so our backlog continues to grow.
Hensley says last year's maintenance budget was $77 million. Just under 20% funds HVAC systems. M told the board they could consider increasing that percentage.
I think really engaging the board in that conversation through the budget planning process and upcoming budget workshops so that we're really aware and that the community is really aware of the choices that we need to make here.
M says they're also reviewing how they manage staff, increasing preventative maintenance, and looking for additional grant funding. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
And sign up for our newsletters to get a list of our most popular stories. Here are some from this week. Caltrans will open the 805 freeway ramps in Southcrest to pedestrians and bikes this weekend. Oceanside police are advising the public of recent attacks on homeless individuals. And a California lawmaker says Imperial County needs to rework its lithium spending plan. We'll have more on that a little bit later. Now, this next story is also on our most popular list. Governor Gavin Newsom recently vetoed a bill that could have significantly boosted voter registration at the DMV. Gloria Penner fellow Elaine Alfaro says local advocacy groups are disappointed but undeterred.
The bill would have made voter registration at the DMV automatic, not optional. It aimed to target the 4.7 million eligible but unregistered voters in California. When people went to the DMV to renew their license, instead of getting the choice to opt out of registering to vote, they would have been automatically registered.
Actually, 50% of people who are presented with this question, do you want to register to vote? During their transaction, 50% of people actually decline.
That was Sydney Fong from the California Grassroots Democracy Coalition. She's one of the advocates who says a secure automatic voter registration system would have improved registration. A generation ago, voter turnout in the U.S. hit historic lows, which is why federal and state governments responded with motor voter laws. They allowed people to register to vote at the DMV when getting a driver's license, state ID, or updating an address. While these laws boosted registration in California and other states, it wasn't by as much as many had hoped. That's where this bill would have come in. But the bill had critics. The cost and a lack of choice in registration were main concerns, which is why Governor Newsom vetoed the bill. But Itzel Maganda Chavez from Alliance San Diego says the cost argument isn't valid.
I know there was a mention right about the budget cycle, but the intention of the author of this bill was that there was going to be a delayed implementation of SB 299 all the way to 2030. And so this budget cycle, 2024-2025, would not have been impacted at all.
Chavez says Alliance and the Democracy Coalition are still figuring out next steps, but they will continue advocating for voter registration.
This battle doesn't end here. We're going to continue fighting to improve our systems and making sure that those systems are protecting the most vulnerable as well.
To learn more about how to register to vote, go to registertovote.ca.gov. The deadline to register is October 21st, but Californians can conditionally register to vote anytime after the deadline and on Election Day. Elaine Alfaro, KPBS News.
Homelessness and housing dominated the recent San Diego mayoral debate hosted by KPBS. Todd Gloria and Larry Turner discussed efforts to expand shelter options and address the housing shortage. Katie Anastas has more from the candidates.
More than 600 indoor shelter beds are set to close by the end of the year. Mayoral candidate Larry Turner says he'd stop that from happening.
On day one, we got to put tourniquets on all the beds that we're losing. You know, he has had temporary Band-Aid approaches to this. Many of these beds are going to be gone in January.
The beds are at 2 shelters set to close. Turner didn't say how he would stop them from closing.
There was no plan in that answer just a moment ago.
The city is responding to the anticipated loss of beds by expanding campgrounds for people experiencing homelessness. Critics say the campground's amenities and case management are inadequate. City council members say it's better than nothing while the city seeks locations for new shelters.
They're not beds. He's changed the definition of that to where living in a parking lot or living in your car is something that is an opportunity. That's not helping homeless people.
Our data shows that over 80% of the folks who are accessing our safe sleeping sites are accessing our homeless shelter system for the very first time. This is helping us to reach folks who we've never been previously able to bring in off the streets, surround them with the services to diagnose the underlying causes of their homelessness, and then help us address it.
The candidates also debated San Diego's unsafe camping ordinance, which prohibits tent camping in public areas.
We don't have enough police to go out there and contact them 4 times before we take enforcement.
What I've discovered is a real inconsistency, a really chaotic approach to this issue from my opponent here, who opposed the Krantz Pass decision, saying that it criminalizes homelessness. But he's here tonight telling you that he wants to end our progressive enforcement model, something that he should know is not possible to do because it's the subject of a piece of legal settlement.
Gloria points to a drop in the monthly count of homeless people downtown as a sign of success. But advocates for the homeless say many people are just being moved outside of the city limits. The candidates also discussed potentially allowing homeowners to sell their accessory dwelling units. Gloria says he supports the idea.
I'm going to always use an all-of-the-above approach to try and build more housing that is attainable to working and middle-class people.
Turner opposes it. He says the city should focus on lowering prices of existing housing instead.
Every place you go to in the city, if you drive around, you'll see is leasing. There's spaces there. The problem is it's not affordable. So to just continue to build more in the hopes that it's just going to lower the prices, that's not happening here in San Diego.
Turner and Gloria also debated public safety, infrastructure, and city finances. A recording of the full debate is on our website, kpbs.org. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
Todd Gloria was elected in 2020 on promises of making the region less dependent on cars. But KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says when San Diego debates transportation policy, Gloria is often absent.
Much of the county's transportation policy is set at SANDAG, which manages local, state, and federal transportation dollars. At a mayoral debate in 2019, Gloria pledged to take the lead at SANDAG, and he touted his support for a set of reforms that would give him more voting power at the agency's board of directors.
It gives the mayor of San Diego the opportunity to sit in the driver's seat at both SANDAG and at MTS, building a new transportation vision for our future. Our current mayor does not elect to use that authority. This mayor will.
But since taking office, Gloria has missed 50% of SANDAG board meetings. His attendance at MTS, which operates the city's bus and trolley system, is even worse. In nearly 4 years of MTS board meetings, Gloria has attended only one.
If I'm not there, my alternate is there, and we have a very capable council member who goes on my behalf.
When asked about his attendance record at a KPBS mayoral debate last week, Gloria said even if he's not in the room at public meetings, he's still advocating for San Diego's transportation needs.
It isn't to say I'm not actively engaged in this. I am. I have staff that look at this all the time. I'm briefed on it constantly. I meet regularly with the CEO of SANDAG. We are active in that conversation, and you see that by the dollars that are coming to San Diego.
Gloria is up for re-election next month. He said if his behind-the-scenes work is no longer effective in a second term, he'll change his approach. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
There's a lot of hope around lithium in Imperial County right now. Vast reserves of the valuable minerals sit below the Salton Sea, and many think the new tax revenue could be an economic boon for one of California's poorest counties. Imperial Valley reporter Corey Suzuki says some smaller cities are worried they won't get their fair share.
Michael Llewellyn still remembers what it felt like when state lawmakers passed a new lithium tax, a law that requires lithium companies to share their profits with local communities.
It felt like a breath of fresh air. It felt like we were finally being listened to.
Llewellyn is a city council member in Calipatria, a town on the north end of the Imperial Valley. It's a beautiful area with views of the mountains, the wide open farmland, and the glimmering Salton Sea. But many communities there are also some of the poorest in Imperial County. And a lot of people feel like their smaller and more rural towns have been neglected for a long time.
I grew up in a town that over time progressively got more brown and dead and crunchy, where our parks dried up, where our resources seemingly were tight within our school system, within our city.
But in recent years, there's also been new excitement about lithium. The Department of Energy has found vast reserves of the valuable mineral dissolved in underground pockets of water, deep below the north end, enough to produce millions of electric car batteries. That means this new state tax on lithium is a really big deal. It was passed in 2022 and will charge companies for every ton of lithium they pull out of the ground. Almost all of that money will go directly to the county where it was extracted. To many in Imperial County, that tax was a promise that if the lithium industry did take off, smaller communities like Calipatria would benefit too.
I got to see something that you don't really see in Imperial County, which is unity across very diverse groups in wanting this tax.
Daniela Flores is the founder of the Imperial Valley Equity and Justice Coalition, one of the environmental justice groups doing community outreach at the time.
To see all those dreams and hopes of people listed in that survey, really to us gave us confidence that it's something people wanted.
But now, 2 years later, some of the hopes around that tax have been replaced with worry. That's because this summer, the Imperial County Board of Supervisors announced a controversial plan to divide up those tax dollars. Under that plan, the county government would get to keep more than half of the money. The plan also uses population size to decide which cities would get the most funding, instead of focusing on the communities that would be right next to the extraction.
Once again, just felt like Calipat, Westmoreland, Bombay Beach, an island were all just thrown to the sidelines.
In mid-September, the Board of Supervisors gathered to vote on the plan. Dozens of speakers asked them to consider pushing back the decision.
I don't see how this budget or this proposed plan provides any economic prosperity opportunities for the areas of Nyland, Bombay, Westmoreland, and Calipatria.
This is where you guys should focus on. It shouldn't be on population because of the fact that we are such a small community. We're such a small community because we don't have the funding.
The supervisors defended their plan, arguing that the county's share of the funds would eventually make their way back to North End communities, and that they needed to move quickly to get more support from the Biden administration, or risk falling behind.
The reason we have to do this is we have to close this conversation right now and focus on development because the opportunity is slipping away.
Imperial County Supervisor Ryan Kelly.
I promise to continue to have the conversation, but we have to be able to protect this.
The 5 supervisors voted unanimously to approve the spending plan. One thing everybody agrees on is that Imperial County still has years to go before anybody actually starts pulling lithium out of the ground. Most companies are still developing the new systems they need to filter it out of the hot brine that it's dissolved in. Llewellyn, the city council member in Calipatria, plans to hold the supervisors to their promise, to continue the conversation about the spending plan. He's frustrated that those 5 people have so much power to decide what happens with those tax funds.
Decisions that were made around lithium used to be with legislatures alongside local leaders and community members. Now it's between a few board of supervisors and lithium executives having meetings together.
Still, Llewellyn and others are hopeful they'll be able to push for changes to the spending plan. Until lithium extraction actually starts in Imperial County, Llewellyn says they still have time. In Calipatria, Corey Suzuki, KPBS News.
The Polynesian people were migrants and settlers, but they didn't settle a continent. They settled islands, separated by a vast ocean that they had to navigate. KPBS SciTech reporter Thomas Fudge spoke with a scientist who learned how they did it from genetic tests and from the stories his grandma told him.
Keolu Fox chose to meet us where we could see the gray Pacific Ocean on the edge of the UC San Diego campus. Keolu is a genetic scientist and a professor of anthropology at UCSD. He's also a native Hawaiian who is using genetic analysis to learn how his ancestors, his kapuna, moved from one island to the next. Risky exploratory trips he compares to moonshots. Keolu believes that journey ultimately brought Polynesians to a pre-Columbian landing on the South American continent.
It's traveling thousands of miles across our planet's oldest, most gnarly, most dangerous ocean. You find comfort in reading the stars at night. You find comfort in understanding different wind and currents like this. You find comfort in reading all of this different type of ecological metadata that allows you to know the direction that you're going.
That knowledge was passed from one generation to the next. Today it stands alongside modern scientific research.
It's true that our grandparents told us that we came from Tahiti, but now I can show you in an unbiased way that we have another thing to be proud of, and that is that we're the greatest seafaring and voyaging people in human history.
Polynesians designed double-hulled sailing vessels, catamarans if you like, to travel the oceans so effectively. Today, evidence of Polynesian migration is seen in many ways, including the languages islanders speak. But it's not been clear what path the migration took or just when it happened. Thanks to modern genetic analysis by Fox and his research group, they've been able to draw a map and establish a timeline for that migration. A paper published in Nature 3 years ago presented a specific eastward migratory path. Keolu was a co-author. By testing the genome of people on one island and comparing it to those on islands settled by their descendants or their forebears, you can understand the sequence of island settlement. Alex Ioannidis is a computational geneticist at UC Santa Cruz and another co-author of the Nature article.
And so if you imagine that on the original parent island from which they came, there were only, let's say, 1 in 100 people with red hair. But on the new island, if one of the 10 people on that boat had red hair, then the new island, you're going to have 10% frequency red hair, right? So you're going to suddenly have this really strong effect just depending on what the founders happen to have.
Evolution of DNA also lets you calculate how many generations separate the people of Tahiti from their distant cousins in Hawaii. So, given the speed and the extent of the Polynesian eastward expansion, why didn't they end up in America? If they found a little place like Easter Island, how could they miss a whole continent? Keolu Fox said they didn't, and they arrived hundreds of years before the Spanish.
And the reality is that the nail is in the coffin, baby.
He says it's time to bury the whole notion that Columbus discovered America.
The idea that our Polynesian ancestors made it to South America first is a fact.
Early Polynesians and American Indians did make contact centuries ago. That is indisputable. Polynesian islanders share the same genetic signature seen in at least one South American Indian tribe. Ioannidis says the timing of Polynesian expansion also favors a hypothesis that they landed on the continent.
The settlement process of the remote islands all the way out to Easter Island, which is the most remote, was occurring right around the time, around the 1200s, 1100s and 1200s, that we date the contact with the Native Americans to have also occurred.
Still, some questions remain because, so far, no Polynesian DNA from that era has been found in South America. Ioannidis said the possibility that an Indian boat made it to a South Sea island to initiate the contact cannot be discounted. But Keolu calls that scenario highly unlikely, given how little evidence we find of Native American navigational skills or their construction of ocean-worthy vessels. Researchers continue their work to answer the unanswered questions. Keolu wants to bring genome testing to North America. He hopes that indigenous tribes along the California coast will offer samples to see if they may be linked to the Polynesian people.
The idea of testing a hypothesis that brings indigenous people closer together around unity and connectivity and harmony and balance, and saying that we had a relationship before settler colonialism. We had a relationship before the introduction of syphilis, smallpox, leprosy, etc. I think that's a really powerful thing.
Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
We hope that you enjoyed this look at KPBS News this week. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Thanks for joining us.